What about children? Can they be narcissists as well? Can you have a child who is narcissistic beyond hope? Or is it that children at certain age are naturally narcissistic and it just weans off over time? These are very important questions to explore and to discuss, and that is what we are going to do in today's episode. Hi, I am Danish, a narcissistic abuse recovery professional. Today, I'll help you understand whether children can be truly narcissistic or not. If that sounds interesting and you're eager to find out the answers, please make sure to subscribe before we begin because your subscription helps spread awareness about narcissistic abuse. To put it as it is, there is no one single answer to this question because the question in itself is multifaceted. It has different aspects and each aspect has a unique answer. For these reasons, I'll be covering two major aspects, two major themes in today's episode. The first theme is going to be all about those children who show narcissistic traits because they have been around a narcissistic adult, or there has been some kind of influence of a narcissistic parent in their life. Their core is still intact, they can recover and become a healthy child or ultimately an adult. The second aspect will revolve around those children who are truly narcissistic and beyond hope. Those who have completely sacrificed their true self, have become exploitative or sociopathic or psychopathic in nature and unfortunately cannot recover. We'll be talking about some of their signs and how do you distinguish between the two? How do you know you're dealing with a child who either has some narcissistic traits or a child who is beyond hope and the child you cannot help at all in any way? First things first, I am a firm believer that every child should be given a chance to grow or outgrow their dysfunctional or abusive behaviors, because when you put a child in an adverse environment, it's natural for them to either fight against the environment or try to run away from it through flight or freeze. So you are going to see a lot of reactivity, which just means that you have to see beyond behavior and understand that these traumagenic feelings, these sensations, they get driven by, for example, the shame or a sense of threat, a sense of doom and gloom, extreme sadness, abandonment, neglect, drive such children's behavior. Having that said, those children who show narcissistic traits but have an intact core that can be saved also show remorse and shame. Yes, they might copy the behaviors of the narcissistic parent or whosoever the narcissist is in their life, but they also have this side that feels bad about the things or that wants to look for an alternative, but they do not know what the alternative is. They feel unsafe, and you can feel that rawness, that unsafety. And they do respond to your compassion, your affection, your consideration, your forgiveness whenever you offer them any of those things. Yes, they might be manipulative, exploitative, they might be physically, verbally, emotionally, psychologically abusive, but there is this other component as well that does coexist, and it's evident. By working on bringing that to surface and making them feel safe, you can change their behavior. Those children who can change show the change once their environment changes, because the problem is not in their behavior, it is in the environment. Their fight, flight, freeze, fawn, all these responses are biologically correct responses to this abnormal environment they have been placed in. So once you get them out of this environment, once you reduce the contact with the narcissist, once you create a safe haven, once you model healthy behavior to them, once you offer alternatives, once you soothe their nervous system, you see their natural, true core, their self coming to the surface. And that core self is quite regulated, listens, pays attention to what you have to say and how to respect others. Basically, such children take time to recover, but they ultimately do. The most important characteristic of such children is their capacity to feel shame, remorse, guilt, and then ultimately reflect on their actions and apologize. If a child is able to do that in whatever capacity they can, they have a good chance to not become a full-blown narcissist. If your child throws a tantrum or does something really out of character, let's say breaks things, but then shuts down, collapses, and is ashamed of his or her actions, then that means your child needs healing, not abandonment. Their behavior does not need to be punished. Of course not. They need to be loved more. Now let's talk about the second aspect, the second category of those children who cannot change, who are hopeless. These children show similar behaviors like the children in category 1, but with a major difference, and that is lack of remorse. You show them concrete evidence. You offer them all love, compassion, kindness, care. You just become a doormat, but they don't listen. They walk all over you and quite happily. You try to help them regulate, but they still lie. They're quite exploitative. They're sadistic. They're abusive verbally, emotionally, psychologically. They might show psychopathic traits as well. There's this dark energy that you feel that comes with their presence. They do not think before acting, no matter how many times they are taught with compassion. While it is said that your personality gets cemented between 3 and 7 years, I think there's more to that. You as a person can always grow, but such children never choose to. Basically, they're either the golden child of the narcissist, or they have completely sacrificed their true self on the altar of their false self to become the narcissist they are now functioning as. What I am trying to say, in other words, is the formation of that false self has totally completed, and now the true self cannot be accessed anymore. I've had a personal experience of this, and it's unbelievable, because back then I was in 4th grade or so in my primary school, and there was this girl who was extremely exploitative, like a total psychopathic narcissist. She had her minions in the whole classroom. She had her scapegoats. I was unfortunately one of those. She had all the teachers in her corner. She was the one who ruled the class. It truly was a cult, because every other child was always catering to her, trying to get her approval. And it's shocking to look back and reflect on those experiences, because she herself was a child, maybe a year or two older than me, but still, I just cannot comprehend how she could manage 30, 40 students like that, and how she could get supply, sadistic supply from everyone, how she could manipulate, how she could cheat so well, and how big of a pathological liar she was. I can remember this as well. She was very grandiose and arrogant at such an age. There were categories of children in our classroom she had created, of course, in her head. One category was to serve her, the close group, the minions. The other category, she used to kind of change roles. Sometimes they were scapegoats, other time they were golden, I don't know, children, what can I call them? And there was this proper category that she used to always target personally, as well as using these minions. She managed it all. And that's why I say it's not all good with the children who develop narcissistic personalities. Some of them end up being true narcissists, which is why you will see parents out there who are survivors of adult narcissistic children. There are parents out there who suffer at the hands of their adult narcissistic children, and it's such a pain, such a suffering, because as a parent, you try to be compassionate. If you're not a narcissist, you try to connect with that child you gave birth to, the child you felt so close to, the child you can see in front of your eyes but you can't reach. And ultimately, these parents go through such a painful grieving process to finally accept that their child is gone, that there is no hope and they can't understand how. There is always a link though. If you are a parent of such a child, you need to understand that there is always a link. Maybe you are not the narcissist, maybe your spouse is not a narcissist, but someone in the family is. Someone has to have influence on a child to develop such type of a personality. Are you a parent who struggles with an adult narcissistic child or children? If yes, drop your experiences in the comments below. Who knows, you may be able to connect with other people who are going through what you're going through. So to bring it all together, you must not give up on hope when it comes to your child. You must try everything in your capacity to help your child heal, even if they're showing major narcissistic traits, because there is always hope. As long as a child is able to feel remorse, show the capability to change, takes responsibility, listens, and is able to connect with you, there is always hope. So you should keep trying. And there is a book that I highly recommend. This book is called Beyond Behaviors. This will help you to understand how to connect with a traumatized child. And if you're a parent of a child who's an adult now but is totally narcissistic, I'm so sorry. And I'm sending you a lot of healing and love, because I know how painful it is for you to just accept that this is something that is irreversible. As much as I don't want it to be, the reality is harsh, and a big part of that reality is there are some children who are truly narcissistic, psychopathic, and sociopathic. Genetics, environment, influence of adults, a combination of everything. We can't pinpoint one single factor, but whatever it is, there are children who cannot be helped, and unfortunately the children turn into adult narcissists. With that, let's bring this episode to an end. Thank you so much for listening to me. I'll talk with you in the next one. Until then, as always, let the healing begin and continue.